One. Hey everyone, how's it going? We're all together in the real world. Usually we're in our sheds if you watch the Devs in the Shed show. This week we're traveling for work. We're all in Sydney, so we're all in the Sydney offices. That's what you're seeing in the background. How's everyone going? Where is everyone joining from? We've got the laptop way up high, so hopefully it's okay. I can see Matt said hi. So yes. Matt's actually from the US and he's come down to Sydney as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Matt. I'm on the Amplify team. So I've been on the team for about 2 years. I'm based in New York, and I've been mostly just focused on Amplify. Definitely spend a lot of my time on the open source side, so kind of working with developers in the community who want to contribute to Amplify. If you're familiar with Amplify, all of our libraries are open sourced, so I spend a good amount of time on that side of things, but then I've also spent time with a lot of our teams, so folks like you guys, essentially just helping everyone use Amplify and ensuring it's great. So yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're all actually in Melbourne. Sydney.
We're in Sydney.
Yeah, I'm not used to traveling at the moment, but yeah, we're all in Sydney, basically getting together, talking about mobile and the web. A lot of DevOps as well. So we've got quite a few groups from AWS all kind of catching up, which is really, really nice. We're learning kind of like what's new, and it's been really great so far. But what we actually have on next week, and I know we've talked a bit about it in the chat, is Sydney Summit is on as well. So if you are keen to join Sydney Summit, it's definitely worth doing. I might actually bring it up on my screen, so give me 2 seconds. Paul and Aaron, what are you doing exactly for Sydney Summit? Like, people will be able to see you there, right?
Yeah, well, like we said, like Summit was a great event. I loved going to Summit, and this year having some in-person events is going to be like exceptional for us. We've got a specific retail booth, like I've spoken about a couple of times. Like one of the specific domains that I looked after is retail, so we've got the retail booth there. But we've got our own specific show, and we've built like an application we'll be demoing, and it'll allow some interactions, some real-time interactions. So it should be really fun to talk through that. And we're going to have the vendors there, so we're going to have the swag at the event. It's going to be really nice and really fun. But all of this will be like, they'll be available for a limited amount of people in person. So for anybody that's registered, and if you registered early, you probably got the call out email saying, hey, you do want to join in, at the in-person event. For those that haven't yet registered, go ahead and register for the event. Everything will be available online, and it's a completely free event. Depending on capacity limits, you might also get the extended invitation to appear at the in-person event. So it should be really, really fun.
Excellent. And so considering we've got one of the Amplify geniuses in the room, you can kind of guess what we're going to do today.
Today's topic.
Yeah, I will share the link for Summit because I do. Is it CDK? Maybe. So I'll share the link for Summit for people that want to register. It's all virtual if you want to join. There's some things that are happening in person as well in Sydney. If you are in Sydney, you can make it. Around the world, there's a whole bunch of summits going on at the moment. So I know Berlin Summit is one of the ones that's going on at the moment. I think San Francisco Summit just happened.
Happened like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Amplify Studio went at GA.
That was
that's the big launch.
Yep.
I wonder like whether anybody's noticed, like, Aaron, you've got an interesting hoodie there.
Yeah, it's my new favorite hoodie. We've got some proper branding now, proper merchandise for the team. I don't know if you can see it on screen.
Are those new?
That is new.
Yeah,
that's
really
our
new.
caricature since I joined the crew. It used to be just Matt and Paul, and they had their own little caricatures, and we've done a rebranding to include me. So thank you. I feel included.
But it's our art versus like auto-generated random art.
It's no longer.
Yeah.
Thanks to Matt who does all the awesome pixel work. So yeah, we actually have our own branding now.
Yep. So I guess with Matt being here, one of the things that we did want to touch on, and probably actually first, like Studio going GA, what does that actually mean for everyone? So what is Studio for people? Are most people familiar with Amplify? Amplify Studio?
I'm curious to hear just if folks are familiar or not. I guess I can kind of give just like the brief overview. I was actually just sending out a tweet to remind everyone to join. So okay.
Oh, we've got some feature requests already coming in.
Really? What chat is everyone in?
It looks like we've got some people on AWS Twitch, and then I haven't seen anyone yet on the YouTube or the other Twitch.
We've got Robbie from LinkedIn.
So overall, Amplify's goal is to essentially make it easier, specifically for front-end developers on AWS. So if you've typically sort of built, let's say, like a single-page app like React, and let's say you're more of a front-end developer, you might not have as much experience building like APIs, adding back-end services like authentication. So the goal is you can kind of quickly add these things without having to dive really deep into those services. So if you want to use like authentication for your app, Amplify has tried to make it a lot easier by giving you a copy and pastable like React component that you can put in your code, and you'll get sort of like the username and password sign in, and you can do federation with social providers like Facebook and Google. So that's kind of like one part of Amplify, are these libraries that you can basically plug in. The other part is the CLI. So the idea there is it's a tool chain that you can run as you're developing, and you can kind of programmatically add things like these backend services you can add off without having to go into the AWS console and sort of selecting like Cognito and kind of following all those steps. So that's the second part. And then the third part is around hosting. So let's say, you have your front end app, you don't have to deal with sort of uploading it to S3 and setting up a CloudFront distribution. Sort of all the best practices are taken into account. And there's even some like bells and whistles. So let's say you merge like a pull request on GitHub, it'll automatically do a deployment for you.
The other thing that it does that I know that I've used with some of my customers is providing those two different environments.
Oh, yeah.
Your pre-production environment and really easy ability to put a username and password so that you don't have public access.
Yes, the preview branches.
Yeah.
So basically, if you make a new branch that says like, add new background or something, it will build that, and you can send that to your team, add username and password in case it leaked out. So we actually have used that internally for building our docs. Like when we do a big docs update for a new feature, like for Studio, before we announced it, we had a branch called Studio Docs, and we kind of used that. So that's one of the kind of extra features hosting has.
Did you mention components, like for web? I feel like you mentioned components as well. Like
that's another big part.
Yeah.
Actually, Matt, if you want to share your screen and show the new like UI docs, it's uidocs.amplify.aws.
Yeah, sorry for the hall of mirrors. I'll give that 2 seconds, and I swear we'll be on the docs.
So Vue, React, Angular, Flutter.
Yeah, so this is like really new as of like a few months ago.
Sure, a different URL.
No, I'm getting there. I navigate through the docs themselves.
Wait, but are you sharing your screen?
Yeah.
So actually, no, I'm not. So let me put it up.
And then, yes, I do see people have feedback. JW01, I do want to hear. Shall we move into private to explain their thoughts? Yes, so let's just finish with a quick overview. Amplify UI is a pretty new initiative to kind of retool. And if you scroll through it, you can do things like theming. So you can change the colors really easily. You can provide your own like branding, like hex values. It looks really clean. It actually looks a lot better.
It is a very, important step, because a lot of the older UI components, or the previous UI components, I should say, a lot of customers, that's one of the first things they say is like, oh, cool, I love the UI componment, but it's orange.
Exactly.
It's AWS colors. Like, how do I change it? So
that was easy to do before, though.
But for a developer, yes, we can get in and we can modify it and make changes in the code. But now you don't actually have to get into the code to make the change.
So UI components is one part. We were just kind of saying Amplify has a lot of different components to it. So the other part is Studio, which is I think what you first asked. So Studio is fairly new. It was just kind of launched fully at the SF Summit. So the idea there is we've kind of heard from front-end developers that they're not all like great designers. So, they're using sort of different design libraries, and it's still sort of difficult to make things look really good. So we've built a tool where if you use Figma, and Figma is a cloud-based, what would you call it?
UI UX development.
It's like a UX kind of development environment. So you can wireframe,
you can build out like full UI UX designs.
Yes,
it's an entire component tree based system.
Yeah, and then you can take those components, and Studio will actually generate UI components in React, and they're human readable. You can copy and paste them. You can override different aspects of it.
The coolest thing, I think, in the Amplify Studio side of that, with the integration with Figma, is actually the ability to link your data source into that component. But beyond that, like if you've got a component that is like, hey, I've got my image coming from here and I've got my text coming from here, and you go like, you know what, I've got so many records coming from a table, is just go up to config, hit create list, and then there's a tool to actually specify, do you want it as a grid, do you want it as a list view, and bang, you've got a list of the component you created in Figma generated in code, ready to deploy.
Yeah, so it's more than just generating the components, it's actually connecting it to the backend for you, and it even gives you that code. So in React, like use effect basically hooks to basically say, oh, someone has added a new entry. Let's say you're building like an Airbnb type site, it will automatically start building those. And just like you said, you can decide, do you want it to show as rows and grids? So it also works with data, which is cool.
Well, Matt Coles is on an important page here, which is like the authentication and protecting your routes.
That screen's a lot nicer than the old UI components, by the way, as well. Like you can still customize the colors, but this looks a bit more modern.
Yeah, it looks nice, but also like there's a lot of people that are coming towards building like single page applications that initially building the ability to protect your routes and protect the data and to automatically fall back to a login page before you go in. Like it's here for you. There's a sample code. You wrap your application within this component and off you go, and it's ready and you go forward. So you can configure the public routes and the private routes, and I think it's
highlight the last comment. Like, sorry, Paul, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I just think that like this particular page is something that can like really take away a lot of pain when you're starting to build your application and working out what's public and what's private and who has access to what within your app.
Yeah.
So this last comment that just came in from JW01, like a lot of customers are doing this. Like they actually, for me as a dev, like one of the most important things in Amplify is the actual SDKs.
Bring up that question.
But so like the last question there. So we have a completely custom front, not using Amplify though, but we use Amazon Cognito Identity.js, which is actually part of the Amplify SDK. Like that's very common to like take the entire SDK and plug in endpoints for your API, your app sync, or even just take parts of the libraries and use the individual, I guess you'd call it atomic services for like Cognito in this instance. Like it's very powerful. It allows you to integrate with a lot of the backend services. Again, you're not using the Amplify CLI and the Amplify backend and Studio, but you've got the power in the SDKs to then integrate with your backend, and just you save a lot of time in not having to go and roll your own essentially.
Yeah, and like as a developer, I was always lazy with the stuff as well, right? Like I don't want to write my own window for an awful lot of the time, because I don't want to accidentally like do something stupid that leads to a security vulnerability. So when vendors would give me a window back in the day, like I would usually go to that, and then I'd see how far I could take that before I look to break things out into my own windows. So either or, I guess. Let's have a look through the comments very quickly. I'm just going to have a look. We've got a lot of people active. Robbie, good to see you. I can see you're online here. Hey to everyone else. Father Goblin, we've cleaned up the shed. So yeah, as we mentioned, Sydney's a little bit different to the wood cabins and the sheds.
Well, we do have a lot of rain here up in Sydney. Yeah. So famous.
Yeah, they always say that Melbourne's miserable, right? But like we haven't.
We all came to Melbourne to the bad weather.
Yeah. Like
where's everyone like from in the chat? I'm curious because
we got a lot of people usually.
Here.
Yeah, US, Brazil. Let us know. Usually we have a lot of people from France watch the show as well, which is like first thing in the morning for them.
Server-side rendering.
Yeah.
Hi to Focus Otter as well. I can see you there.
I want to call that one out.
But
that's a good one to talk about.
JW01. Do we want to talk about that, or is it worth kind of like connecting offline on?
No, I'm talking SSR.
SSR.
Yeah, the next comment.
That's Michael Liendo he's a developer advocate.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael. But he's on YouTube, I guess. Yeah, you guys should have Michael on at some point. He's You know,
Yeah, well, didn't Michael do like an amazing graph?
yeah, he just
Yeah.
did a blog on VTL,
Yeah.
and he just did one on Stripe with Amplify.
Yeah, the VTL
For
stuff
payments.
was like
Yeah.
next level. I shared that with.
I actually
Aaron.
have
Yeah.
his blog pulled up.
Yep.
Focus. Yeah, I was actually reading it earlier. It's funny. But anyway, so someone asked about server-side rendering. So this is a great point, and I think it's good feedback for us because I think we could be more clear around letting customers know what is supported and what is not. So the most recent version of Next is currently not supported by Amplify hosting, but that is something that I can, tell you that the team is actively working on. We don't have a very specific timeline as to when that will be released. But that is something that the team is aware of, and I know it is frustrating for folks. I think the idea was we wanted to get some sort of support for SSR to customers quickly. So that basically means that we're supporting the last version. But yeah, that's something that we definitely get. And if you go to the GitHub repo, I think one of the most upvoted features is to support Nuxt.
Yep.
So we are trying to work with the community.
Nuxt 12 plus
Nuxt
all those
12.
features that Nuxt 12 does, like dynamic image rendering, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one, is a tough one, but it is something we're trying to work on pretty quickly.
So I might just quickly share my screen, but I've got the link here as well if you want to see it. We will do, as we usually do on the show, as everyone knows, we detour a lot. So this is something that I really liked personally, and Michael, I'm probably scoring bonus points for bringing up in the stream. But let me get the screen up. And sorry for all the mirrors.
Yes,
should flip over here.
That's a great post.
Yeah. So this was really good. It went into the detail around using virtual templating language for writing your own AppSync resolvers. Explained a lot of the logic. This will really help you with AppSync. I feel tie into a lot of custom resources you have on the back end. So a lot of the customers that we have spec recs for, they're Amplify is awesome, AppSync's awesome, but we're not. All of our data is an RDS, and we're not going to migrate that data to Dynamo, but we love Dynamo. And so being able to tie into all the different data sources within AWS is pretty critical. The other thing is with AppSync, you can tying in multiple data sources, you actually, AppSync's great as a developer because I'm I just want all of this information, give it back to me. And then it can actually go through multiple data sources. It can do some logic to tie things together as well, and then it can give me exactly what I want.
Yep.
And so you can actually have Lambda and stuff like that kind of aggregate the information, manipulate the information in some way if you want it, and then return it to me, consuming that AppSync endpoint.
Yeah.
So I'll probably talk about this too much, but this blog, if you've got some spare time, I reckon it's about 15 minutes, 20 minutes read, but run through it, play around with AppSync, set it up, learn more about VTL. It's definitely really cool.
If you can get your head around the syntax.
If you can get your head around the syntax, yeah.
It's the thing that I like actually probably about VTL the most is that in the VTL language, it's got a lot of the template library for you.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I need to map out everything that I'm getting from a DynamoDB and then map it as my response, it's just one line, bang, take DynamoDB response and out.
So I might jump a little bit back around to kind of what we wanted to talk about at the very start. But we've got an Amplify community that we've been building up. So, the first thing before we kind of talk about it is the docs are really, really good.
Yeah.
At least in my view, because I've gone in, I've edited docs myself. Anyone in the world can go and they can extend the docs. They're open source. And so you can make the docs better. Everything's really descriptive. It shows you multiple examples of how to do things. But the other thing that I really like about Amplify is the Discord.
Oh, the Discord,
yes. So I thought I'd start with the Discord, actually. So
post the link for everyone.
Yeah, if we get that link up, I can share it as well. But the Discord's really good because it breaks things up into frameworks or platforms that you're using, programming languages. It goes into particular topics as well. So if you're doing a lot of work around the CLI, or you're doing a lot of work around Amplify geography or one of the particular libraries in Amplify, you can go in, you can search the history. You can find other people that have encountered the same thing that you've reached. You can see how they might have resolved it or what they were thinking to kind of get to the next point that they wanted to get to. But you can also go in there and you can just ask questions. And if you look, there's 12 Amplify staff that are kind of online at the moment. There's community builders that are here as well, helping out. There's like 1,000 people online, like right at this point in time, that are actually using this as well. And so you can get feedback really, really fast when you reach a hurdle.
I actually found it really helpful with with the GitHub issues or the commentary on GitHub. You can actually, like, a lot of the discussion, like if it's a long-standing ticket or if it's something that's very popular, a lot of the discussion around the ticket's not just on the GitHub, it's actually in Discord. People are actually actively talking about it.
Yeah, I think there's around 18,000 members in Discord. And what's also cool is I think we're one of the only AWS services that have a Discord, which I think is pretty unique. The thought process was a lot of people are building apps, like why not try to bring people together, answer each other's questions. Amplify has a lot sort of to it, so I think it's helpful. So yeah, if you're new to Amplify, it's a great way. Just introduce yourself, share your project, and you can ask questions. We, as Matt said, have a lot of staff in there. We try to monitor it. Each person on the team is supposed to sort of check their own channel. So it's supposed to be pretty, not all channels you're going to get an answer within like a few seconds, but
yeah, usually when there's like a large community on there, someone's going to come back. It's like very quickly, usually I've found, at least in the past. Now, the other thing was, like, we've got the community side as well, right?
Yes.
I know you wanted to take us through.
I wanted to talk about that. It's funny because you guys said it would go by very quickly. Now I see what you mean. I do want to save time for the demo too. But so, as I was saying, so all the libraries are open source. So if you actually click the, if you go back to the docs page, this is the community site, but I wanted to show the contributing site.
Just open the docs separately.
Yeah, and then you click contribute. So another big part of Amplify is that anyone can contribute to any of our framework libraries. So the idea there is it's a great way to kind of get feedback from other Amazon engineers. If you want to work on your own sort of resume, I think open source is a great way to just work on your portfolio. And everything's public. So I think it's just a great way to kind of keep learning, and it allows us to sort of get knowledge from people all over the world. So we're really trying to build that community. So we launched this bash, and one of the benefits is you can get an AWS credit for any contribution. So if you just want to change something of like a docs change, you can get a credit. And then, here's the getting started guide on how to clone the repo. It's for the JS repo.
That's like a Cyberpunk 2077 background. That's awesome.
I was enjoying that theme.
I was like, that looks good.
Do you want to put the link in the chat?
I'll put the link in the chat.
Just contribute to amplify.com. So that's just another thing for Amplify we're trying to work on.
I think that's like working at AWS, we have people ask us all the time, how do I get credits? Here's somewhere where you can get those credits for a small change and improve the product that you're using at any time as well. So go ahead and do that. Get yourself some free credits.
So I mean, like this is awesome from one aspect, right? Like contribute to Amplify could be like adding into what we've got existing in the Amplify core libraries and everything else on GitHub, right? Like that's awesome. Updating the documents though, you can do as well, right? Like the documents are in GitHub. So just like as we mentioned beforehand, but one of the things that like I think not many people know about, I'll try and find in the documents if I can as well, is there are, if I can find it,
issues?
No, there are ways that you can actually like extend.
Oh yeah, you click edit there. Is that it?
No, like plugins. Here we go.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you can
like,
write your own. We had someone write video transcoders, plugins, and
so this is cool as well, because it's like sometimes it's like the core is perfect for you. You're more than happy with like how you're using it, but then you go like I really want like to use like Lex version 2 chatbot, right? Like you can actually go ahead, you can actually build your own plugin that will work for the CLI as well, and you can have like Lex come into your application. You can contribute that back to the community as well. So you can see there's a number of different third-party plugins that we've got here. The video one's really cool. So we had some people doing live video streaming in Australia, and they were using that video plugin. Of course, like you can play around with that. Just be careful on the cost side because real-time video streaming can add up a little bit, and it counts. But you can see there's GraphQL, seed plugins, there's a data importer, seeding information to Amplify projects. We kind of already have that with the AWS Faker stuff in Amplify Studio.
Yep.
It's pretty cool as well. So yeah, if you want to contribute to Amplify, the capability is there in many different ways, not just one, but I think it's pretty awesome. So shall we jump on to showing a little bit about one of our Amplify projects? Yep. So let's see. This is something that we got working last minute. So, demo gods. We created it about a year ago.
I think we've mentioned it once or twice.
Yeah, we have, yep. I might actually just show a sample of it first. Let me work out where I've got this. It's not on localhost 3000. Where is it being hosted?
I think it is. It's just not started.
Yeah, you're right. It's dropped out. Actually, does the URL work? Let's actually check. This is what I was doing in the background. That's why I killed npm.
That was the redeploy.
Yeah. So don't have to run on localhost. And if you're quick enough, you could completely bombard us with different players. So this is Super Paul and Matt, a little bit egotistical sounding. But this was actually created internally at Amazon. We had like a mobile and front-end conference in Seattle last year. And I'll zoom it in a little bit for everyone. And Paul and I and Aaron as well, actually, we've been using Pygame for some stuff, and we decided we wanted to do something in JavaScript and we wanted to have co-op. So
I think it might have been the reverse. I think we were looking at Phaser first. We were looking at JavaScript and then we went to Pygame.
This is like a year ago.
Yeah, it was a year ago. We were playing with some of the gaming engines.
Yep. So with this, if I click Matt.
Where's Aaron from that?
No,
this is
was
pre-Aaron.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was a while
must
ago.
feel like
I helped work on our Pygame thing, but that was pre-Aaron is a dever in the dev shed.
Yep.
That was guest Aaron. So.
Yep. So I've got myself walking around here, right? And what was the object of the game? It was like to pick up.
The objective of the game was that we're going to have AWS services fall from the sky randomly around the environment, and you can just jump around and collect those AWS services, get some points for that.
Yep.
That was the idea. Like, it was an intro. I'd never used Phaser.js as a game engine, and I just was playing with it and learning what it looks like, what it feels like, and how quickly I could get a little side scroll up and running.
I'm pretty sure this came after our Pygame because you've reused all of the.
No, I think, yeah.
No. I created these characters first, then I created the.
No, the tiles.
No.
This
was all first. We reused
Really?
this stuff. Yeah.
So we used this for the Pygame.
Yeah.
No, Paul. Like Aaron's actually right.
yeah.
We did Pygame first.
Because I remember Matt
I
did all
reused the tiles for this
tiling.
because I got lazy. Because I took too long making.
Because we were talking about we
Yeah.
should have done a multiplayer or like a leaderboard or something in the Pygame one, and then you were like, yeah, let's do that, and you went off and did it in Phaser.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So like let me go to a second browser, right? Like let's see this side by side. So the idea is you collect the AWS services, more AWS services. I picked two Mats, did I?
Yeah.
Let me fix that up.
I think one is enough.
Yeah, exactly. I'll pick a Paul this time. So if I walk over here, right? I can see Matt spawned.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I'll zoom out of this one so I can see it a little bit better.
You've got two.
There are no bugs
Oh,
in
but
this
you know what?
code. Like,
That's
There's no bugs in
funny.
the code.
yeah.
If someone was quick enough to copy that URL, they would see that this is not just locally sharing that session. This will share that session across people's individual machines, across the world, across networks, however it might be. Now it's specifically hard coded to just be 2-player, so it's a bit limited,
Right.
is what we'll say.
Yeah.
But that's the whole idea. There's a multiplayer game that you could go ahead and build and have two people interacting, using sockets to be able to send the messages between.
Yeah, and we could whoever gathered the most points, right? And I really like the physics aspect. So all the AWS icons would actually fall to the ground and bounce. They don't just fall to the ground. So this is super fancy stuff.
There's that one more icon. We should see them come down again. A whole bunch of new ones if you get them all.
Yeah, there we go. So you can see the bouncing, like S3 is coming. There we go. Bounce, bounce, bounce.
Wow.
So
Is that from Phaser doing that?
Yeah, that was one of the
Yeah.
Phaser physics libraries. You can set the bounce and set
But
the
you
rebound.
have to give it like
and all
a weight
sorts
or
of stuff.
something?
Yeah, you set the weight, you set the gravity, all this
And
sort
then
of stuff.
it figured, wow.
Yeah,
that's
that's all
cool.
the bounce for you.
Yep. So one thing that you might notice is like I'm moving the right hand screen right now, right? Like so I'm moving Paul around. But look at the animation on the left hand side. So what we were doing here was we're basically like syncing events, like keyboard events into AppSync,
Yeah.
and then using the real time subscriptions and AppSync. We're like, you probably don't want to do this for a video game in real life, right? But this was really fun for us to play with AppSync effectively. But this was sending off every single event that had movement
Yeah.
So
to the server.
Can I qualify? Like when you
Yeah.
said you probably wouldn't do this in real world, like yes, you would. You would do it with WebSockets. So obviously, AppSync is using WebSockets to do subscriptions, but it's an opinionated WebSocket, so it's
Yeah.
based on the GraphQL model. You would do the exact same thing using API Gateway with WebSockets, and then
Correct,
you would
yeah.
set up the serial
Yeah.
to the WebSocket.
Yeah.
Like, what are you actually sending will be
Yeah.
a lot smaller than the
Right.
GraphQL
Yeah.
request.
Because what was happening in the code here to work it out was like on the screen where Matt is using the keyboard. So like on this
On the left
example,
one at the
on the
moment,
left
yep.
side, it's moving. You're using key inputs to determine a change, and in the program it
Unless there's a
effectively
bug.
says in the game loop it says, has my X or Y coordinate changed from the last iteration? And if so, then go ahead and just
I see.
publish an event, and that the other side will listen to that and say, hey, X and Y coordinates have updated, so we'll move the
Move it.
person in that area. Now,
Yeah.
on one side, we have proper animations with the legs moving and so forth. On the other side, we just didn't go.
Oh,
down the
yeah.
path.
I didn't notice
Yeah.
that's subtle.
Yeah. So on the other
Yeah,
side,
the
we don't
legs are
have that
moving
logic.
and
that
he's
says-
just
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah,
So like
something's happened,
we
work
were
out what's
taking the
happened.
movement, but we weren't syncing the animation.
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
And that also means when the services fall, I think they actually fall in different positions than the
Yeah.
player because we weren't syncing any of the actual
Oh.
objects that were getting spawned.
So it's very much prototype. It's just
It's
Yeah.
very much prototype.
multiplayer.
And what we learned with AppSync is like real-time subscriptions is awesome if you're writing like a chat application or like numerous
Yeah,
other
yeah.
things, right? But like you want a raw WebSocket
Not
for
for
API gateway.
Real-time
Like
data streaming.
if you've got millions of events that you need, like everything needs to be trackable, right? Like the object and the way that it bounces with the physics you're
Yeah.
tracking on the server, the animations it plays, not just the
Yep.
keyboard movements. If you've got like, you might fire a gun across the scene, right? Like a laser, like that actually the particles need to be tracked as well. And those particles
Yeah.
could be made up of like 1,000 little
Fire.
pictures at once, fire.
Yeah.
So all these things to be fully synchronized, there's a lot of compute happening in the background.
And I think what we're doing here is like every single call is going through AppSync,
Yeah.
but we are also persisting every single change within DynamoDB as well.
Mm.
So we could potentially replay every single action and have a live replay of everything that occurred in this as well.
That's
but
cool.
what it shows was that even if we say this is probably what you shouldn't do, and we've used it in like what we'd call like maybe a slightly hacky sort of way, like look at the performance that you're seeing here. This is really going over the net. It is making those proper subscriptions. It is reading and writing that through AppSync into DynamoDB, and it's pretty much as soon as you move the key, the other side sees the example and sees it moving forward.
Yeah, that's right. And if I go into my tables, right?
I'm
like-
curious to see.
Yeah, I wanted to show you how many entries are going into this, right? Like I might make this a bit bigger because it's a bit squashed. Let's go like get live item count, right? So just showing
Whoa.
what we had, we've already got like 2,900 events, so we're not even syncing the animations.
Yep.
So pretty cool, but a lot of information just for something very basic, right, to get going. We could explore those table items as well. So like the structure, like we had to think about the structure of how we wanted to do this as well. It's like, what do we need to track in the player? And you can see like player 1 hasn't been moving at this stage, but player 2 has movement updates. And so you can see like players 2's X coordinate is this, and players Y coordinate like is this. And then you've got like a loop count here as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The loop count was important because potentially, like the way we're sending the information, and you're sending things across the net, like an event where you're moving somewhere may come out of order, So like if you have an event out of order because you're making like constant API calls, right? It's the web, right? So you're the other side consuming this. Like this isn't like FIFO, right? These are events that are just going in, and the other side you're consuming those events out. If an event comes out of order, the way we do is we say, if I found like that I'm, have made a jump and come back down, and the coming back down event has come before the jumping in the air event, we'll skip the jumping event and just move forward, because otherwise you always want the latest event to be reflected in your view. Otherwise you'll end up with an inconsistent state, and then people don't follow each other because things will come out of that.
Right.
Yep.
So the loop count is making sure that like you're always showing the most recent event, and if you skip ahead or you've missed one, or an earlier event has come after a later event, we just discard that event and move forward. So there's some UI glitches there where you might see it like quickly jump to a point in time, but that's just because you don't want to go back and slowly replay that. Now we could have written proper programming to like put that together, stitch it together, and replay it over time.
Right.
But we didn't. We just said, look, we just don't want it to get out of order. We want the latest event to be showing and displayed.
Yep.
Was there a reason you chose to do the loop count instead of like every single event in the system having a timestamp and then just checking the timestamp on event?
So that's probably how I would have probably like put it like eventually, right? Because like you actually don't care about what happened in the past ultimately, and this is why it doesn't really need to be sorted about in Dynamo. Like all it is, like whatever the latest subscription is, whatever the latest state is what needs to be reflected. Because sometimes the internet's a bit laggy and you don't want to replay events like and fall behind. And so what you just want is the very last record timestamps to be the state that everything should be in.
And I think what Aaron says is like you could have two browsers, and those two browsers could have a different clock. They could have a different clock, whereas keeping a loop count and syncing those between the two things is a way to make sure it goes wrong.
So if you're doing like an aggregated timestamp across different events, you'd say like I need to go from here to here, but it doesn't matter how many cycles I do it through.
I think in DynamoDB I take the
you want it on the game. The game's like not
so
really
the game
timestamp,
engine,
but
maybe
I guess
faster in one, slower in another, but you still want the same event.
So I just went like upper tier, right? So I went from Dynamo into like what is that schema that we're looking at, like feeding into Dynamo, right? So this is very much like what you saw before. So player 1, player 2, those were those JSON objects with XY. We had a game ID.
So there is a created and updated at, like those timestamps are coming through.
There was a game ID, which the idea was that like eventually, if we wanted to share this with other people, people could come in and they could like have a fun session with themselves, maybe bring their own art asset or something like that. We could have like a game ID. That means that like they can ring up their friend and go like, our session is like 2184, and then their other friend can type that into the browser or at the title screen, and then they're going to be both in the same session together, having fun versus like interrupting somebody else's session.
This is starting to sound like digital twins in the metaverse.
I don't think it's like metaverse worthy, like at the full scale. Some people are doing that.
The 2D version of metaverse.
You're in it.
And given that we've shown this a fair bit now, I think it's probably time to like paste the game URL and see some people, let some people play with it.
Let's see how that.
Let's get some people.
Paul Mirrors, apologies everyone. Like let's have a quick paste.
And we'll see like what were some of the questions that have come up there. Is there anything that we should look through?
Well, I did like GetDev's comment on, VTL for AppSync, right? Like that was one. We've had a lot of feedback from customers on VTL. Like it is a little uncommon. Apache use it for a lot of things still, but that's something that we are taking into consideration. So feedback's always counted. JW01, like let's connect as well, and we can talk through like the particular case that you're discussing too. Especially with the like you're literally in Australia getting feedback about Amplify, right? So
if you join the Discord, I'd be curious to hear a good place to get it.
Were there any questions specifically about the game or the game engine or how we use that with AppSync?
Well, I thought we were going to walk through the code next, but I'll see if people want to quickly play.
That's somebody else in the game.
Just check if there's any questions.
Moving.
Oh, is my screen like just out of whack?
I think so.
Where? Oh, here it is. Okay. Yeah. So if you're watching, if you want, let's see.
We could make one of those. Oh, there we go. There's
someone is playing. Like someone is playing the other person. Like we can see Matt jumping around. Now, because this is specifically made for just one session only, we could have competing priorities. So if a couple of people playing, you might be fighting against each other. So we could end up with a lot of events in the database.
Glitchy. That's the loops.
Yeah, that's the loop
that's
thing. When
the loop
everybody's
issue.
sending a lot of events, like you'll find it sort of like
Yeah.
sort of jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
But at least you're going to end up where you
I've never
are
worked
actually
with
ending up at the other side.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
I almost think there should be like a window, like you can't send like every 3 seconds, or maybe that's too
Yeah.
long. But like
Yeah.
a window where because then you're just canceling things
So
out.
the issue with doing it in the browser, right? Like, and
Right.
Paul said it exactly what it is before. It's like every browser's clock is different. Like it's not going to be exactly the same. So some browsers will be running faster,
Right.
others will be running slower. And I'm not talking like the time,
Right.
like the clock on your system. It's in the browser, the actual execution engine.
Like if I go to the network tab, it should just be like
And it's peak
Oh my
moving
God,
around,
it's
I can
just-
see.
Yeah, like
It's
right
fire.
click view inspect, look at the network tab.
54
and you'll see-
requests.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
And this is
so
what I was saying.
would
Like,
have done. Yeah,
in
I-
a real world like
Oh
game,
my God.
this is where you would use something like WebSockets. You'd minimize
Right.
the amount of data that you're sending in terms of requests down to like
see the or
lat
pending
and
for a
long
while.
or X and Y and maybe some other small
Yeah.
data.
And this
Yeah.
is using like AppSync subscriptions. So
Yeah.
like if something on the
Yeah.
back end has made a change, it pushes that event down. I mean, look,
Which-
it's a
Well-
it's a POC. It was a fun event that we did
Yeah.
internally
But I
to
think-
demonstrate.
I reckon-
that actually
actually,
shows
yeah.
a good PXC right there.
Yeah.
Like doing subscriptions with AppSync actually makes WebSockets really easy.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really easy to do that.
And I would actually reckon I could get better performance out of this if we weren't doing so much heavy writing into DynamoDB. Like DynamoDB is like super fast, scales like super quickly.
Yeah.
But like for a real time game, like I reckon there's things that I could probably do behind AppSync to make this like really butter smooth if I started. doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Again, like that's why if you were doing it in a real world, you'd have your API gate with WebSockets because
Yeah.
you'd just be handing it straight back out to the WebSocket hub again. So
Yeah.
all clients are receiving it.
Yeah.
But as you're doing that, then you're offloading it to wherever you want to store it
Yeah.
instead of doing it as part of the same transaction.
Yeah, but the cool thing about writing it to a database though is like we could do replays,
Yes,
right? Like
yeah.
so a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
games that have replays have
Yeah.
actually been saving every event on their servers, and they
Yeah.
just basically replay through the code to show movement the same. Like it's not a video that they
Yeah.
taped; it's like literally just replaying every button click to
Like
every
it
animation.
really would be easy
Yeah.
to add the animation style like as an extra run, walk, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when you do the move, you're just adding the animation. Like
Yeah.
it's simple.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just data coming from the other side.
Yeah. Actually, so one of the things is we've got a new project actually. Like we were gonna show that, but we're like we don't want to wreck Summit. So next week we won't be streaming at lunchtime.
Yeah.
We will be streaming the following day.
Yep.
So Thursday Australia time, is it?
Five? Is it five?
At 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So 5 p.m. AEST time,
AEST.
Australian Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to show off a Amazon location with AppSync, emoji, Summit, Excitemometer.
With real time
With real time
Yeah, we
feedback,
like
so you
that,
can see
right?
what people are picking, all the emojis that people are picking around the world. Like you'll be able to see that on like the map.
Yeah.
So if you can't make it because it's a bit late your time, like it will be on
Mhm.
YouTube and it will be on Twitch. You can go back to the AWS archive for 2 weeks. Twitch will have it. Oh, sorry, YouTube will have it infinitely. But like you'll be able to watch this on Twitch as well.
Do you wanna have a
Pull it up.
quick look at pull up the resolver? So
Yeah, we can go through the code map because like
Yeah,
someone is
yeah.
wanting to look at the code.
Pete,
Like,
Pete's asked.
like
It's a
this-
fun game, super impressive.
So it all starts at the
It's
index of
reading and writing.
HTML. Do you want to
Yeah.
do you want to take us through this? Actually, I can.
Let me see.
like, there's going to be a lot of work to go back to
Yeah.
just about
Just,
what it was.
don't worry about the code side. Like, go and have a look at the AppSync
Yeah.
resolver.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just keen to look at the AppSync resolver.
okay.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Don't give away your secrets, man.
No.
This
is gonna be on the App
built into-
Store.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
this is
Yeah.
built
Yeah.
into a lab. Like we actually built a lab that you can work through and copy and paste and look through all of that code. There's like interesting pieces in that code. It's a fun game. It's definitely not something that's going to go in production. It's definitely
Yeah.
not something that's like performance optimized. All of those events are dispatched asynchronously. So when you're producing those
So-
events, you don't know where they're published off. Yeah.
So I assume the other side is receiving the subscription data because you're putting it into the DynamoDB, so
Yeah.
it's doing DynamoDB data streams back out again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Did you see Focus Otter's comment?
Do.
Do you want to pull that up? Because I think that's interesting.
So let me stop screen sharing for a second.
Just highlight it from that screen.
Yep, because I can't read it.
Yeah, so I would use a Lambda resolver to do that. Like you just receive the data and send it back out again.
Yeah, that's why I was like, we could probably optimize AppSync to do
But
that.
what if
Yeah,
there's a
But
conflict?
that's where I wouldn't
Yeah.
be using AppSync. Yeah, like
Yeah.
because you with API gateway WebSockets,
Yeah,
you
API,
set up a
yeah,
WebSocket
as
hub,
we've said, yeah.
so that data comes in, hand it straight back out, and everyone connected to the hub,
Right.
so all the clients receive the response.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah, so we were tracking that in DynamoDB because it was interesting to see that. We wanted to see it. We were looking to I think at this time when I was writing that example application where I needed to fill DynamoDB with 2 billion.
Yeah, I was
events.
going to reference that.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, people are like, oh, it's cool to see DynamoDB, but it's like literally like Paul had like so much compute thrown at DynamoDB to see how fast.
Get everybody.
Yeah, I had a requirement to look at something like how does it actually work with the billions of rows. And I'm like, well, I can make a proof of concept, and like we want to see like actually how DynamoDB works with 2 billion rows.
Yep.
All right, fine. So I wrote like some program that asynchronously inserted like
You're using Python multi-processing, all that, so you can use all your
Python, like,
cores.
on
Yeah.
all these different
Yeah.
like EC2 instances, just constantly writing events into Dynamo, and it took like 2 days to put 1 billion events in there. Or
Yeah,
something like
I think you were walking around your house finding like Raspberry Pis, and like you were just like, let's add some more compute.
that.
Like,
Everything that
what
I've
else
done,
is
I
This
just
is
wrote
not a
that.
distributed denial of service attack.
Yeah. It was really good.
Yeah.
But in the end, like I had like this table with like, I mean, I still got it in one of my accounts, but like 2.2 billion rows.
Yep.
And you can like query that, and it's instantaneous. Like no difference between it, and it really shows what happens. Try and do a scan or a count across that. Sure, it's slow because you're processing billions of events.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have the repo like public that people can actually
That's
have a
what I was
look at the
asking.
game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we do. I can't remember.
It's-
I think it's on the devs in the shed one. Isn't it?
Like I pasted it earlier. Phaser Labs.
Yeah,
I
cool.
think you've got it.
So that's-
well, I
too.
couldn't.
That's the workshop
You sent me
lab.
the workshop lab.
The workshop
But the game
lab
is in
has,
it, yeah.
The workshop lab has every bit of code you need to
Can
build
that be
this out.
shared outside?
Yeah, probably.
It's
It
public.
wasn't really made for. It was made for internal, but I don't think there's anything special about it.
That's
Yeah, there's nothing
it's GitHub.
special.
It's
Well,
a private repo.
Yeah, it's not public. We'll clean it up, and we'll be able to share that. And then
We
can
should
show
share
everyone.
this. This is quite cool.
And then when it's open source, Focus. What is it? Focus Otter. Yeah, we won't be selling it for 6 figures. It's open source.
Do we want to solve? No, I wish. Yeah, look,
There's probably some things that I could clean up before I'd I'd publish it out. There's nothing like hard code. It's all like dynamic, and it all works and deploys. But some maybe less than best practices.
It's a
we
POC.
use.
well,
It's
the
a
most
proof of concept.
interesting
Yeah.
thing was like you were passing information from the phaser view to like your React app, right?
Yeah, I
And,
think like working out that bridge between like Phaser, like working out the game engine in Phaser and how you would bring that to Amplify was sort of to show that like Amplify doesn't need to be Amplify CLI or it's complete Amplify into a React app or something like that. This is completely different.
Oh, yeah.
This is Phaser.js,
Yeah.
but I'm using Amplify and bringing the hooks between like Phaser.js and Amplify to say remove creating all this complexity by myself by hand and self-crafting it and being overcomplicated. Just import the Amplify libraries into Phaser and off I go. Like I can go and leverage them and use it like just like normal JavaScript constructs.
Yeah.
That is a really good point. Like a lot of the spec recs I've been doing recently aren't how do I get started with Amplify?
Yeah,
sorry. Most people here don't know what a spec rec
specialist.
is, right?
We're specialists, right?
Yeah.
So a request for a specialist to come and explain something or build something,
Well,
whatever. So
like,
that's a spec rec.
we're all generalists at AWS,
Yeah.
right? Like when you talk to a solution architect, you talk to a technical account manager, a cloud architect from ProServe, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like we're all generalists, right? But then we have our own.
We belong
things that
to
we
a technical
really
field
like,
community.
and we belong to a community. Yeah.
Yeah.
We typically have an area of strength, and
Yeah.
then when we have that area of strength, we lean into that.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the organization, when they need a specialist in the area of
They
strength,
come to that
they
TFC.
come and lean back on
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So to that point, a lot of the spec recs, a lot of the requests that I've been getting lately aren't around how do I get started with Amplify? Or how do I
Games are
build?
all like centralizers?
How do I build a
And then the
mobile
game
app?
scenes loaded into view.
How do I build a mobile app on Amplify? Like all that stuff. It's more, hey, I've got a mobile app or I've got a web app. I want to start building additional resources,
Right.
but I want to use Amplify.
Yeah.
Like how do I integrate with what I've already got and bring it into Amplify?
So, sometimes it's
Which
nothing
is
to do with
exactly
Amplify
what
as well, right? It's
He's
like
done with Phaser.
we've got this old app. We have JavaScript developers.
Yeah.
We want to bring in views that are React Native. How do we share context between the Objective-C app that we wrote 10 years ago, like that we could update to Swift if we wanted to? That's cool, but we want to use our JavaScript devs to do that, and so they want like thought leadership in like terms of how to like integrate things like within their application, and that spills into some things you want to use the cloud, right?
Well, we've got him in the room.
Yeah.
When's Amplify going to support Rust?
That's what, I saw actually CDK just released Rust support.
We
Right?
got Rust.
Yeah. Maybe Focus are going to take that. I don't know.
I don't think Rust is very good for
no,
UI.
I don't think that's going to work.
Definitely not mobile.
Yeah.
So I think like this particular piece of code here shows that like this is the way Phase was working. Like this is the main file that we're using in that, which is the game scene. So there's a class here, the Phaser class, and inside there, like I'm just importing like the AWS config and importing like the GraphQL like mutations and subscriptions code and the Amplify libraries, and just using Amplify inside my application, right? So it doesn't need to be fully controlled and owned by Amplify CLI. It doesn't need to be hosted by Amplify. Like I can just go ahead and use this how I want. Now we happen to be using Amplify hosting for easy access of deployment for this specific lab. But yeah, like this is exactly how you would go ahead and use it. It doesn't need to be React app. It's just JavaScript. I'm just pulling it in and I'm just using those components to have easy access to like push and send data into DynamoDB.
Yep. I think the other complexity on this one is I remember you spending a lot of time with Webpack.
Yeah,
I'm remembering from like a year ago.
Yeah,
I can't remember why.
I
think it was the resource routes or something.
I think there was there was something I can't remember what it was, but like figuring out the crossover between the way Amplify was producing its libraries versus
this was it. Like it was this section, right? I was trying to load in the assets folder and went to.
I'm going to do. You've just given me an awesome idea. You remember the episode where we went through and I did the federated modules with Webpack 5? So we can do remote federated modules and now use libraries from remote servers and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to build an app on Amplify where the actual Amplify SDKs are provisioned through a remote application that is doing something else, and I'll pull bits, micro front end in Amplify.
I was like,
sorry, but bad way of explaining it all. A micro front end solution using Amplify.
Yeah. So I think what I was doing here is as a developer, I want to be able to like code locally. I don't want to code this and redeploy it all the time. So I wanted hot reloading. I wanted the proper experience, setting that all up and hot loading and making sure that Amplify was all hooked in. Yeah, there was some fiddling around here to get some of this stuff right. Like it wasn't, this Webpack file wasn't like there. I had to like do some work to do it. Like it looks really simple, but it took me a little while to figure out exactly how to configure that the right way.
So when we clean it up, I'm going to give everyone a challenge. I will send someone a Fire TV.
Whoa.
The first person to message me on Amplify Discord, let's go with that.
Wow.
That has like taken this one, cleaned it up.
What's your handle?
So
what do they have to find you?
We should post this in the Discord, yeah.
Yeah, so there we go. It's just Matt Coles. I always make it simple for myself. So reach out to Matt Coles on the Amplify Discord. This is once we've posted it, so we'll post it into the Discord. But I want to see who actually goes in and creates like not Paul or Matt.
Yeah.
Like, goes and makes their own character.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give everyone like a hint.
And it can't just be a block.
Because part
Focus on is going to start right now.
because part of the lab, the lab was like, it was a very fun lab. It wasn't just about Amplify. It wasn't just about code. We took you through the process of like the little program that we use to build a pixel art and what you can do, where you should swap out those assets so you can build your own thing and add animations and stuff. So it was fully fledged. You could walk away and build a little side scroller your own way and customize it and understand. Like it's an intro not just to Amplify but also to Phaser as well.
So if you want to build your own character, you can basically like take that asset. You could load it into Photoshop if you wanted to. You could.
It wouldn't need to be Photoshop. Was that a pixel?
No, that's fine. I'm like running through it. So Photoshop, if you've got a Adobe Creative license, that's cool. Like awesome. I'm cheap, so I have Ace Sprite, which is actually like the best ASE Sprite. ASE Sprite. It's a very cheap, and I think it's got a free download as well. $20 or something, that Australian, if I remember correctly, and this is specifically made for pixel art, so it's actually better than Photoshop pixel art. You can use that as well. If you want to go open source route, GIMP is a good option too. So you basically like use one of these applications, like open up the art assets. I've got the divs and the shit art that I was working on here, right? Like You can open up the art asset. You can save over it. Like there's a pen tool, so you can kind of draw on the screen. There's like erasers.
A couple of handsome looking guys.
Yeah, you can fill areas. You can make shapes and stuff like that. Like this is a pretty cool tool as well. But I want to see someone that introduces their own characters, and then maybe that's going to be one if you build your own art asset. And then secondly, just because we're lazy, I'll send another Fire TV to whoever
Wow.
makes an input screen where you can put your own game sessions.
Yeah.
Because I'm too lazy to do that. and then we'll update the tutorial. Like, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea. Yeah, well, I think we should go through that. We should, we built a lab. We've ran it with like several hundred people internally, and
Yeah.
it works like end to end. But we'll just maybe clean up some of that, get it a little
Yeah.
more like fluid, and have some fun.
Yeah. So yeah, give us a couple of days because we are traveling. Like, join the Amplify Discord. I'll post it somewhere in here, which makes sense. Might be, I don't know.
General or announcements?
Yeah, I'll put it in general. Like, I don't want to overwhelm announcements.
Yeah. Yeah. A Sprite challenge.
Yeah, Sprite challenge.
No, this is cool. I
yeah.
think it also gets people thinking about different parts of Amplify.
Yeah, I mean, this used AppSync Dynamo, used hosting. We could extend it as well. Like, if we wanted to make it a 2D map view, we could bring in Geo, and then we could have like a Pokemon Go version, like where instead of like
Oh wow! Yeah.
like if you wanted to, you could change the perspective on the map.
Paul and Matt go.
Yeah, or your own character, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Got to catch them all.
Yeah, got to catch them all. So, anyways, hopefully that was fun for everyone to watch.
That was cool, yeah. And I guess just kind of the best place to get started for Amplify, I'd say, is go to our doc site and go to a Getting Started guide. It basically takes you through Create React App, which is just like the boilerplate, and then you add authentication.
Or create Flutter, or create Swift, or
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole beauty. So the
Yeah.
point of Amplify is it works across all these different frameworks. Flutter, which is really popular now. Is Flutter really popular in Australia?
Flutter is actually
Yeah.
It is, because Angular, you said, or someone was saying.
Someone was saying, like, a lot of companies still have a lot of
bigger
that.
companies
Yeah.
still using
Angular.
Angular. Yeah, React is probably a lot more popular in like newer startup, smaller business, but
But Svelte, Vue, I've seen a lot of like,
Vue,
Next and Nuxt.
Yeah.
Nuxt,
Like I've seen a lot of as well.
Yeah, but Flutter for like mobile devices, like I got a couple of customers using building.
Really? Flutter's
Yeah.
exploded.
Yeah.
Like,
So that's good. But whether Flutter in the browser, like not so much yet. But like Flutter on mobile apps,
Yeah, Flutter in the browser is interesting because you're basically making a web app rather than a website.
Yep.
Like you can't copy text, and actually they're working on it, right? Like it's evolving pretty rapidly. So I think Flutter will be more common down the track.
I don't know, not with Python coming to the browser.
Well,
I don't think we have time.
we don't have time, but like if you like
PyScript.
PyScript, go and
it's
Google
pretty
it.
cool.
Yeah.
We'll bring that in at some
we
point
have
in
to have a
time,
chat.
and we'll show like what we can do with PyScript and how we can connect it to,
Yeah.
I don't know, something in AWS. Like it's exciting. Like look at PyScript, check it out.
Yeah. It's really good for people that are doing like data analytics, machine learning.
Yeah.
They don't have skills in JavaScript, but they want to have like a website like made, like you could use Flask, right? Like server-side rendering Flask.
Yeah.
But like it's really cool that you can kind of like embed Python content in the browser that runs locally. People don't have to install like Python 3.10 on their local machine accessing their website. It's all handled in the browser itself. Using a bit of WASM, a bit of JavaScript magic.
The coolest thing is actually being able to write out your Python in the browser and execute.
In the browser. Exactly. And you can install other packages. This is what got me really cool. And ones that are available in MicroPython.
Yeah.
So Pygame I was trying to test, but it wasn't available in MicroPython.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. This is awesome. Anyways, absolute thanks, Matt, for coming along.
No, thanks for having me. This was super cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the challenge.
Yeah, and hit us up if you've got any things that you want to Amplify. I am really keen. I didn't want to avoid it, so I am really keen. JPO1, I think it was. I know you joined each session. Yeah, like come hit us up on the Amplify Discord or Twitter or wherever you want. We want to talk in detail because I actually was trying to understand like the exact use case, so it might take a bit of a walkthrough.
And for anyone that's in Sydney that happens to be coming along to Summit, like come and find us. Like we'll be around. And if you just happen to be in Sydney, like hit us up as well. Like maybe we can like meet up beforehand or whatever.
Paul's there Wednesday morning. I'm there Thursday morning.
Well, we're in Sydney all.
We're in Sydney
all supporting stuff. So we'll be around. Yeah.
Oh wow. You're here you're coming on Monday.
Yeah, we'll be here all week.
Wow.
Next week.
Yeah.
So
And we've got another cool Amplify project that we'll show. So 12 p.m. next week, we won't be streaming today.
Okay.
Like just because I think there's a lot of summit content
Everything's
that's going to be
summit,
streaming, so they've stolen our spot, but they've given us a really good opportunity. 5:30 next Thursday AEST time. So what I'll do is I'll wrap it up because I know we're right on the dot.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining, and again,
This was
yeah,
fun.
Matt, thank you.
Yeah,
thanks
Matt.
everyone.
See everyone.
Bye.